Section 4.6 is all about functions. Functions are a really interesting section, and I think you'll like it. It's pretty simple as long as you remember what your domain and range is. In this section, we're going to understand what a function is. We're going to determine if an equation is a function, and we're going to use the vertical line test when given a graph to see if it's a function, and then we're going to determine specific function values. Today's shout out again goes to my Hidden Valley peeps in Algebra 1, and specifically I'm going to give a shout out to Hannah. You know who you are. Right, so let's go. Recall when we were doing sections in this chapter that a relation is a set of ordered pairs, an x and a y coordinate, where x is the domain and the y is the range. Okay, very important that you get that straightened out so that we won't have any mistakes in this section. A function is a relationship where each domain value is paired with only, and only, I mean only, one range value. So, the domain or x values cannot repeat in order to be a function. They cannot repeat. So if an x value repeats, the equation is not a function. It's still a relation, but it's just not a function. All right, so for each element in the domain, there is only one corresponding element. Okay, so in this mapping, remember that this section would always be your x. This section is your y. And remember, the arrows are pointing to the ordered pairs. So let's go ahead and make these ordered pairs. This is going to be a set, and that's going to be -2, and that goes with -2. And then the 0 goes with 9. The 1 goes with 7. And the 4 goes with -11. Okay, so there's your order pairs from that mapping. And notice that I have my domain would be -2, 0, 1, and 4. Okay, let me write that down here. The domain is -2, 0, 1, and 4. And you notice that nothing repeated in the domain, right? We don't have an extra -2 or 0, 1, or 4. Okay, so that means that this is a function because the domain did not repeat. Okay, it doesn't matter if the range repeats, but it does matter if it's a function or not if the domain repeats. Right, so this one is yes, this is a function. My pen is writing weird. What's new? All right, so this one, let's look at this. Let's make our domain set. And let's make our relation points first. All right, so I'm going to make my set. Let's make my points. I'm going to have -8, and it goes with 2. Okay, and then I have -6. It goes with 4. Whoops. And then I have 3 goes with 2. And then I have 9. It goes with, well, there's 2 errors. 9's going with 0. And 9 is going with 5. So there's my relation. Okay, now let's look at the domain. Let's write our domain from that. Domain, of course, is your x value, so I have -8, -6, 3, 9. Whoa, I have 2 9s. Okay, so I can only write it once in this set, but we just learned that if our x's repeat, then it's not a function. And right here, the 9s are paired with 0 and 5, so that means no, this is not a function. And you can look and see that easily from your mapping, okay, but I wanted to write out the whole thing for you because the mapping shows that 9, there's 2 arrows going away from the 9. That is your x value. Okay, now notice also we have 2 arrows going towards 2. It doesn't matter about the range. It just matters about the domain. So the domain is what you want to focus on. when you're wanting to know if it's a function or not, okay? So that 9 goes with 0 and it also goes with 5. That means it's not a function because the domain can only be paired with one range to be a function. So this one is a not. Okay, let's go to the next slide. All right, so now we're also going to be looking at tables. We'll look at graphs, we'll look at ordered pairs, we're going to look at every which way they would represent a relation. All right, so let's look down our X column. We have a -2 and an 8. We have a 1 and a 4. We have a 6 and a 2. And we have a 1 and a 6. Now, in order to be a function, the X cannot repeat. So let's look through here. We have -2, 1, 6, and 1. Whoa. The 1's repeated in the X column, so that means it is not a function. See how easy this is? Very, very easy. All right, this one goes -7, 5, 3, 3, 4, 2, 8, 3. So let's look at the X column because that's the one we're concerned with for whether it's a function or not. This says -7, 3, 4, and 8. So is this a function? Yes, because the X's did not repeat. X did not repeat. Okay? All right, now we're going to look at ordered pairs. Now you can look at these and see just as easily if it's a function or not. We have 2, -2. We have 3, -2. 9, 7, and -1, 8. Okay, well the only thing repeated was the -2's, but they are ranges, so it doesn't matter. So is this a function? Well, we have 2, 3, 9, -1. Yes, this is a function because X did not, whoa, I'm running out of space again, not repeat. All right, let's look at the next one. So we have 1, -4, 2, -5, 0, 2, and 1, 6. So we want to look at the X's. So 1, 2, 0, 1. Well, the 1's repeated, so this is not a function. Not a function, okay? All right, so if you're given an equation or a graph, you can see if it's a function by using this thing we call a vertical line test. This vertical line test shows that if you draw a vertical line anywhere on the graph, a function will only intersect in one place to that line you drew. So if you have more than one intersection with this test, then it's not a function. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples that I've got for you. All right, so the vertical line test, if you're given an equation, you can graph it in the calculator or you can make a table and graph. So let's look at this one right here. Let's go ahead and make a table. All right, now remember we like to use the numbers -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. And we plug them in right there. Okay, now if I do 2 times a -2, I get -4. -4 minus 8 is going to be a -12. If you get confused with these negatives and things, put it in your calculator and use parentheses where you plug in for your X. All right, so now this one is going to be 2, and 2 times -1 is -2. -2 minus 8 is -10. Seems like we did this problem already. Plug in 0 for 2 and you get 0. Excuse me, plug it in for X and you get 0. 0 minus 8 is -8. Plug in 1, so you get 2 times 1 is 2. 2 minus 8 is -6. And then you plug in 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Minus 8 is going to be a -4. So if you were to graph these, I think this is very graph is where we ran out of places to put stuff. So that's going at -2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, oh no, 8, 9, 10, 11, way down here. All right, the next one's going to be 1, about right there. 0, 8, so about right there. 1, 6, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. And then 2, -4. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm a little off. This one should have been a little bit up further, but that's okay. This makes a straight line. Okay? So, what you want to do when you make a straight line, let me come over here and get a line. Make a straight line. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to draw a straight line. Okay, and then I can take this and move it around. We'll use it. Alright, so I have my vertical line, and if I take this line and I run it from left to right, and I can come down here and do it, and it touches my equation only once at any given time. Notice how I'm crossing, and it only touches my line one time. If it only touches one time, like this does, then it's a function. So yes, whoops, I did that without moving. So this is, yes, a function. Now, if you want to put it in your calculator, you go to y equals and type in 2x minus 8. And again, remember, you push graph, and this will be your graph. And I've got the equation up there so you know which one I've graphed. And then if I wanted to take my vertical line, or you could use your pencil, anything that you can do that would be a straight line, make it vertical. And you can take this across your graph, or whatever you have, and it only touches that line that was drawn once. Okay? So yes, it passes a vertical line test. Alright, so let me put this back over here, out of the way. Alright, so let's go to the next one. Alright, so now we need to graph these, and we just talked about horizontal and vertical lines in the last section, okay? So equals 4. Remember, we talked about it. If it's an x and no y, then it does not touch the y at all. Okay, so it's going to be a point right here. Whoops, get my marker. A point right here. And it's going to be a vertical line because it does not have a y in the equation, so it cannot touch the y when you draw it. So it has to go this way. Whoa, that was horrible. I'm using this little gadget at home, and I run off the edge. I really can't, maybe. I really can draw a straight line, but this thing is kind of funny. Hold on. And it's not very big, so I run off of it a lot. Alright, let's try it again. There you go. Now, let me get another vertical line. Let me get my vertical line up here. I want to change my color because I already have blue. Alright, so I'm going to draw a vertical line. Okay, and then I want to see if it will pass my vertical line test. Alright, so I have to get it over here to the line that I drew. Whoa, what happened? It touches everywhere on that line. So it did not pass the vertical line test because it touches several places. So a vertical line does not pass the vertical line test, and so therefore it is not a function. Vertical lines will never be a function. Not a function. It failed the vertical line test. Okay? So that one failed. So just remember, a vertical line will fail the vertical line test. All right, so let's go over here and draw y is equal to -1. Now notice there's no x in there, so it cannot touch the x ever. So I'm going to go down here to y at -1, and because it cannot touch an x, it has to go this way. See, I did much better that way because it's a little bit longer. This gizmo is longer than it is wide. All right, so there's my function. Let's go back over here and grab my vertical line tester, my red line. Come on over here. Now, remember, go left to right, and whoops, and ask, is it touching my blue line more than once at any given time? Nope. This one passed my vertical line test, so this is a function. Yes, function. Pass the test. So a y equals will always be a vertical line, or just a plain y equals with no x value will pass the vertical line test. But an x equals with no y in the equation will never pass. And then you can check the other ones with this too. Your diagonal lines, you can always check those. So let's look at this one. This one says 2x minus 3y equals 15. Well, first off, it's not solved for y. Okay, we could do one of two things. You can solve it for y or find your y-intercepts, or you can put it in your calculator, but again, you can't put it in your calculator unless it's in y equals form. So let's go and solve it for y. Negative 2x, because let me write it right here. Whoops, run out of space again. 2x minus 3y equals 15. All right, subtracting 2x from both sides. So that marks that out, and I have negative 3y equals, and I told you put your x value first, negative 2x plus 15. And then we want to divide by a negative 3 everything. So that will make this go away. So now we're just going to have, and put it over here, y is equal to negative 2 divided by negative 3, and hit math enter, enter, will make 2, whoa, a mess, 2 thirds x, and then 15 divided by negative 3 will make a negative 5. Now, my x term does not have any of those little exponents, so most likely this is going to be a function. So let's look at it. So I'm going to graph this one on my calculator so you can see it. Let me move this over. Alright, so I'll go to y equals, I'll type in 2 divided by 3 x, and then minus 5. And then I'm going to graph it and watch until this little cursor right here quits, and then you know it's done. And that's a straight line. And if I want to take my red line I used for, whoops, I don't know if it's going to let me do it or not. Move this over. I may or may not be able to get it on my calculator, because as soon as I touch my calculator and then I touch the board, it goes away. Let's just pretend. Alright, so if I had a line, vertical line, if I passed through this way, it would never touch more than once. So this would be a function because it would pass the vertical line test. So this would be yes, whoops, gotta have my marker there. This would be a yes. It's a function. Okay? Alright, and let's see if I have anything more on this. Yes, I do. Alright, so we're going to use the vertical line test, so I'm going to need my vertical line again, so let me get one. Right, let me put it right, let's see, let's start right here. Okay, there's my vertical line to use for my test. You can use your pencils, whatever you need to do, pencils or pens. All right, so I'm going to go across this function here and see, whoops, gotta go to the corner, see if it will pass the vertical line test. So as you see, I'm going left to right, and now I'm touching my function, and it's only touching at one place at any given time. All right, so this passed the vertical line test, so this would be yes. All right, let me go back. Let's try the next one. Take my vertical line, and I'm going to go across, and whoa, look right there. It's touching right there and right there. So this would be a no. This one automatically failed. So this is not a function. Okay, let's go back and get my vertical line. Drag it across the next one. I'm going across left to right, and the line only touches one place, so that's a function. This is a yes. All right, then let's try the last one. This time we don't have a line, we just have dots. We go left to right. Whoa, right there it's touching those two dots. That means that that x value repeated because it's at 1, 2, -3 there and -3 there. So this would be not a function because it failed the line test. It's going through 2 points already at one time. So remember, if the domain or the x value repeats, it is not a function. All right. So if an equation is a function, it's often written in what's called function notation. Let me change my color. Let's do purple. All right, so it's often written in function notation. So like for instance, your equation is y is equal to 3x minus 8 can also be written in function notation as f with the parentheses and x inside it equals 3x minus 8. When you read this, it's f of x. F of x is equal to 3x minus 8. So y equals and f of x mean the same thing. So sometimes you're going to have equations that are written in function notation, and sometimes they'll be in y equals. Either way, you may type either one of these in your y equals on your calculator. It's the same thing. Okay, and remember, it is read f of x, a function of x. Okay, and that function of x means they're going to give us x values, and we're going to plug those in just a minute. All right, so next screen says find the range values. Okay, ranges are what? That's right, they are y's, given each function of x or f of x. So they're going to give us an x value, and we're going to find the y's. So they're giving us the function notation. If f of x is equal to 2x plus 5, we're going to find this, a, and b for this particular one. So what they want you to do, notice now it says f of -2. That -2 inside replaced or substituted in for the x. So that's what we're going to put into our equation. It's going to substitute in for x. So this would be 2 times -2 plus 5. When we get that calculated, it's 2 times the -2, which is -4. -4 plus 5, which is 1. So f of -2 equals 1. Now what that means is this is your x value, this is your y, so the order pair would be -2, 1. Okay? Or if you were looking at a graph at -2, then the line would be going, the y value would correspond with 1. Okay? All right, so now this one says f of 1 and then plus 4. So we have to take this and plug it in. So I'm going to have 2 and 1, okay, plus 5. Now that's the original equation. You have to finish up this equation first. So 2 times 1 plus 5, and then whatever else they add to it. Add that to it also, plus 4. It has to be at the very end though. You don't want to mix it up until you get it all done. So this is going to be 2 times 1, which is 2. 2 plus 5 is 7. 7 plus 4 is 11. So 2 plus 5 plus 4 is 11. So f of 1 plus 4 is 11. Okay? All right, so now this one gives us a g function. Now, with these function notations, they substitute the letters out for different ones. They could have a F, G, H, doesn't matter. That doesn't change anything. It's still a y equals situation, and you just plug in whatever they give you. If they say it has to go in g of x, then you have to look for that function, because sometimes they give you more than one. They may give you an f of x function and a g of x function, so you have to read carefully. All right, so this one says g of negative 3. So again, this is an x value we're going to plug in for any x that we have. So I'm going to take this down here, and I'm going to make sure I use parentheses wherever I plug in for x, especially when it's a negative number, and especially if it's something that's going to have an exponent. You'll see why. And add 2. Because if you do not do this right, you're going to have the wrong answer. Even though you set it up, you thought you had to set it up right, but you'll get the wrong answer. If you put in your calculator, it does order of operations. If you do not use parentheses, it squares a 3 and then multiplies that by negative 1, and that's not what we're doing. We want negative 3 squared. So negative 3 squared is 9. Negative 3 times negative 3 is a 9. 9 plus 2 is 11. So at negative 3, you would have the y value as 11. Okay? This one is plugging in a different letter for the x. So this one says you're going to put an r in where the x is. So I'm going to take my equation, I'm going to put parentheses, and use it as placeholders. I just wrote this equation right here without the x. Okay, and I'm going to take whatever's in the parentheses and I'm just going to put it there. So then that means simply, this one was a real simple one, r squared plus 2. Sometimes you get numbers, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just get expressions. And the last one, we're going to take a 4 and plug it in where the x is. So again, I'm going to make placeholders, write my equation, and then I'm going to do whatever's left over, add it to the back. All right, so I'm going to put a 4. All right, so 4 squared, that means 4 times 4, which is 16. 16 plus 2 is 18. 18 minus 5 is 13. You must do order of operations. You must go left to right. You can't skip around, okay? Once you get it to this point, you can type it in your calculator just like you see it right here, and it'll give you the right answer, okay? So that is what these answers are going to be. We will practice in class. They do look a little confusing, but we will get this. So I will see you next time, and we will practice more in class. Have a good night or good afternoon. See you soon.